So good to have you join us today. Hello and welcome to Business Daily. I'm Lee in Seoul. We have a lot on our plate today, so let's get started with a look at the day's highlights. Now that President Park Geun-hye's impeachment bill has passed, what tasks lie ahead on the country's economic front? Hyundai Merchant Marine has reached an agreement to form a cooperative relationship with the world's largest shipping network, 2M Alliance. These stories and more coming right up. But first, the government has issued a second nationwide standstill order on the transportation of poultry 3 weeks after the first was issued in an effort to contain the highly pathogenic H5N6 bird flu virus. For more, we connect live to our Lee Joo-young on the phone. So Joo-young, can you give us the details?
Yes, of course. The Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs said it has ordered about 89,000 places linked to the poultry industry, including farms and slaughterhouses, to stay put for 48 hours from the beginning of Tuesday until the end of Wednesday. The government plans to carry out nationwide disinfections during this period. This comes after a cabinet meeting on Monday where acting President Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-ahn urged ministries to take prompt action and provide all possible resources in a timely manner to contain the virus. He also stressed the need for greater information sharing among central and local governments, as well as among farmers and experts. A total of 43 cases have been confirmed as of December 11th nationwide, with the exception of the southeastern Gyeongsangdo region and Jeju Island.
So how many birds have been culled so far?
The Agricultural Ministry says it has culled about 9.8 million birds this winter and says it plans to cull an additional 2.5 million more chickens and ducks in the coming days. That would raise the number to more than 12 million since mid-November, which was when the case was first reported. Fortunately, no cases of human infections have been reported yet. This has been Lee Joo-young for Business Daily.
All right, let's now get a quick check on how the markets fared here in Seoul today. After dipping to a loss in the early hours of the trading day, the benchmark Kospi recovered to close in the black, up 0.43%, while the tech-heavy Kosdaq ended higher by 1.33%. On the foreign exchange counter, the Korean won strengthened against the U.S. dollar at 1,167. This as on Wall Street on Monday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average recorded its 15th new record high since the U.S. presidential election on November 8th. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq ended the day lower. Eyes are on the U.S. Federal Reserve's next move, which will come on Wednesday local time. Market watchers don't expect too much movement until the end of the meeting, when the Fed may hint at the future direction of its rates into next year. Korea's Finance Minister Yoo Il-ho has called for the swift implementation of next year's budgets for major business projects amid a wealth of uncertainty ahead. Speaking at a cabinet meeting on Tuesday, Yoo urged ministers to minimize finances being carried over, calling for resolute execution from the start of the year. He said that this would be a preemptive move in light of risks at home and abroad. The government last week decided to front-load 68% of next year's budget expenditure in the first half of the year. So after the National Assembly passed President Park Geun-hye's impeachment bill on Friday, some of the country's political uncertainties have faded. But that's not the case for economic uncertainties, as the country's economy continues to struggle with falling demand and low growth. So where is Korea's economy headed from here on out? To tell us more about this, Professor Kim Se-won from Ewha Women's University joins us in the studio today. So good to see you.
Pleasure to be here.
All right, so let's first look at Korea's current economic conditions. How are things looking for the Korean economy right now?
Well, the impeachment of the president came in at one of the worst economic situation after a global crisis. Like a month ago, we talked about the possibility of the economic downturn, but these days, economy is actually declining. According to last week's KDI report, the third quarter's economic growth was 2.6%, and that was decreased from 3.3% of the second quarter economic growth. So this is mostly due to weakened consumption, investment, and export.
Now, back in 2004, the National Assembly actually passed an impeachment motion for then Liberal President Roh Moo-hyun. So how does Korea's economic conditions now compare to then?
Well, the economic situation of 2004 is totally different from that of today. Actually, in 2004, Korean economy was under the expansionary phase. The economic growth rate was almost 5% in 2004. That doubles today's economic growth. And that strong economy has been led by construction and manufacturing.
All right. Well, things are looking very different now.
Right.
But many are saying that one of the most pressing tasks is setting up a strong economic leadership. So what plans are needed to address some of the country's most important economic issues?
Well, on my way to studio, actually, I was just heard that the opposition party agrees on Mr. Liu, the finance minister, staying in his office for a while. So that means he will have unprecedented power to coordinating economic policies. He doesn't have to talk to the president's office, and he doesn't have to ask a budget to Congress because he already got the 400 trillion won budget from last week. So we will see very expensive government budget expansion from the beginning of next year.
All right, then also many of Korea's conglomerates were questioned in regards to the political scandal involving President Park Geun-hye's confidant Choi Soon-sil. So how would this all affect Korean conglomerates from here on out?
Well, actually, foreign investors and foreign media is more interested in the future of the Korean big companies compared to that of the Choi Soon-sil scandal. We have a long history of too much close relation between big companies and governments. But I think it is time to rewrite the business manual of the big companies without the support of the governments. So that's going to be a big impact of the Korean economy in the future.
Then what about domestic consumption? I mean, more Koreans seems to be tightening their belts nowadays amid sluggish economic growth.
Right. The consumption is simply the largest part of the GDP. That covers almost 60% of the total GDP in Korea. So what we see is the political instability affects the consumer psychology, and therefore consumer decreases their expenditures. So in the third quarter, consumers decreased their expansion of the consumption by 2.6%, which has been decreased a lot. So and that is partially due to the expiration of the tax credit on purchase of the automobiles and any durable goods.
Now, zoning out a little bit, how would other countries and global financial institutions view Korea now that the impeachment motion has been passed? And also, what impact would this have on foreign investment?
Well, actually, the three major rating companies, the Moody's, S&P, and Fitch, are maintaining the financial credibility of Korea at a AA level, which is seventh highest in the world. But if political instability continues and therefore economic policy decisions are delayed, there is a possibility that decreasing the rating of the Korea, then foreign investors will try to decrease the portfolio from Korean market.
Now, looking ahead, we have monetary policy meetings from the U.S. Fed Reserve as well as the Bank of Korea. So what are the expectations from these meetings?
Well, I think Bank of Korea will take a wait-and-see strategy until U.S. Federal Reserve decide what to do. It is very difficult for Bank of Korea to take a preemptive action on interest rate policy. However, if exchange rate increases, that means if Korean won depreciates a lot thanks to U.S. Interest rate hikes, there is a strong possibility that Bank of Korea will increase Korean interest rate at the beginning of next year.
Okay, we'll definitely keep our eyes on those meetings this week. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
Turning now to the troubled shipping sector. After months of negotiations, Hyundai Merchant Marine has reached a cooperative agreement with the world's largest shipping alliance, 2M. But as this falls short of official membership, concerns remain ahead. Our Eunice Kim explains.
Despite an MOU signed in July, Korea's #1 shipper, Hyundai Merchant Marine, has come short of achieving full membership with 2M Alliance. 2M is made up of the world's top two freight transporters, Maersk and Mediterranean Shipping Company, together moving nearly a third of the world's containers. Following a series of M&As effective next year, Ocean Alliance and The Alliance are set to firm their places as major players. What Hyundai Merchant Marine did reach is a tie-up with 2M. Not being a full member means sharing vessels won't be an option with Maersk and MSC, but it will be able to exchange or buy cargo slots from the European operators. Joining an alliance in the incredibly crowded global shipping market was one of the restructuring requirements set forth by Hyundai's creditors this summer. Hyundai is arguing its, quote, strategic partnership still qualifies, and its largest shareholder, state-run Korea Development Bank, has agreed. But another challenge up ahead, of course, is the industry itself. Global ratings agency Moody's this week said its outlook next year was negative due to the glut in capacity. It expects standalone earnings before taxes and depreciation to fall by up to 10%. And while Korea's last standing global shipper has said it will focus on improving competitiveness over external expansion over the next few years, it is unclear whether the limited alliance partnership will suffice to edge out the many others elbowing to deliver more of the seaborne container cargo. Eunice Kim, Business Daily.
Korea's Transport Ministry says it will order a recall of almost 2,200 vehicles sold here in the country. 5 Audi models, including Audi A4 TFSI Quattros, will be recalled due to a defect in the model's airbag. It will affect nearly 2,000 units sold between August 2008 and August 2009. 3 models of the Mercedes-Benz, including the S63 AMG 4M Coupe, will be recalled due to faults in software that controls the seatbelt. 8 Maserati models are also to be recalled, including the Ghibli SQ4 models for a fault in the differential gear, which could prevent acceleration. This would affect cars sold between July and September of this year. Owners can get their vehicles fixed free of charge at service centers nationwide. China has filed a complaint against the U.S. and the European Union for failing to categorize the nation as a market economy under World Trade Organization rules. China joined the WTO in 2001, and members were allowed to treat China as a non-market economy, to use a third country's prices to determine if Chinese products were sold below cost. Now, this method meant extra anti-dumping duties could be applied on Chinese goods. Part of the clause expired on Sunday, but Beijing says the U.S. and EU have yet to change their system of pricing. The U.S. Commerce Department says China's WTO accession agreement didn't require members to automatically grant market economy status to China. The issue is complicated further, as the Trump administration will litigate the case, and the incoming U.S. president has promised to be much tougher on trade with China. Widening social and income inequality is a global issue. As for Korea, public sentiment has worsened over the years in terms of social class mobility. Our Oh Jung-hee has more.
Korean people have become very pessimistic in terms of their social status and class mobility. According to a Statistics Korea's report on Monday, in 2015, 20% of Koreans answered that they belong to the lowest socioeconomic status considering income, job, education, and wealth, a significant rise from only 12% back in 1994. Those who think they belong to the middle class decreased from 60% down to 53%. On whether one would be able to attain a higher social status through lifelong efforts, only 22% of people had a positive view, compared to 60% in 1994. Negative views rose from 5% to over 62%. The lower income they earned, the more pessimistic they were on the possibility of class mobility.
Those in their 30s and 40s saw a low possibility in climbing social ranks. Unlike young people, older generations benefited from development in the past, which is why younger generations have low expectations.
The results of the OECD's 2015 Program for International Student Assessment show that social inequality in Korea has worsened over the last 10 years. The gap of academic performance between students with different social, economic, and cultural backgrounds widened from 31 points to 44 from 2006 to 2015. This is a gap 6 points higher than the OECD average of 38. The United States was able to narrow this gap by 13 points, the same with the United Kingdom and Denmark by 8 and 7 points, respectively.
Parents think that by cutting spending on education, their kids will suffer from inequality, lower income, or even the inability of getting a job.
Experts also say that Korea's society needs to be further prudent in terms of maintaining its current education system, which is seen to aggravate the feeling of deprivation or ranking among students as they're continuously compared to other peers. 오정희, Business Daily.
And that brings us to the end. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow with more business news that matters to you. Until then, goodbye.